Welcome to this month's Grown Ears episode of Undertold, where we tell the jaw-dropping details of Black history that you may not have heard before. I am Crystal Marie, and I am hungry to share today's episode with you. If you've read the episode title, you already appreciate that pun. Today, I'm super excited because we are breaking the glass ceiling. Today is the first time in Undertold history that my guest is a woman. Woo-hoo!
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've gotten some complaints. Several DEI folks have reached out to me.
Girl, I know you for you.
The
Well,
woke
guess
police
what?
were after me.
You got a little black girl magic. You got
Yes, I
me.
love Black girl magic. So Dominique, as I warned you and as listeners know, I write the guest bio. So here's what I have for you today. You get the chance to add or refute any claims, and the guest can decide what's true and what's not true.
Okay.
So Dominique Charles is the owner of Plots and Pans, a perfectly named company for someone who loves to cook and grow food. You may have seen her on the Today Show, or if you live in DC, you maybe seen her in her garden or her kitchen. I just saw her most recent appearance on the Today Show where she talked about edible gardens. Something amazing about Dominique, she helped me start my first garden back, I think it was around COVID time when we were all preparing for an apocalypse. And I've been going strong with my garden ever since. She is also a Howard grad, which is where I met her. What was that, 5 years ago when we were students?
Girl, I don't know. I was a student way more than 5 years ago.
Hey, I don't know about I was there 5 years ago. I don't know what you were doing.
This over here says 2006.
Okay, well, that was your choice,
Maybe you saw me when you were in like passing. You might have seen me when I was working.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. So Dominique is the person that you call if bugs are eating your tomatoes and you need a natural organic solution. The hint is you can plant marigolds or mint and lavender. She's also the person, though, you can call if you have a bunch of leftover shrimp shells and you're like, I'm going to make some seafood stock, but what am I going to do with it? Do you remember me calling you about that? Do you
I
remember?
do. You wanted to make gumbo.
I did want to make gumbo, but then I was like, well, what else can I make besides gumbo? Do you remember what you recommended?
That's an etouffee? Well, you know what it was? I think you did a take on my crab pot, crab spaghetti.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
It's my favorite thing. And yeah.
My kids ate the whole pot in one night. That was it. Okay. What did I miss in your bio?
Well, you missed the most important thing to me is that I'm a New
Ooh.
Orleanian.
That is true.
And that makes me who I am. But everything else is legit. You said I'm a Howard alum. Check. I am an AKA, y'all.
She is a member of
but
Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority. That's
I
right.
am. And you talked
Incorporated.
about the gardening. You talked about the food. Yeah, I think those are the important facts. I'm okay with this bio.
The reason why I didn't say where you were from is because I'm always afraid of how to say New Orleans. How am I supposed to?
Just like that, New Orleans.
New
Not
Orleans?
New Orleans, not
I can say it.
Nolens, New Orleans.
Yeah, the Nolans. I didn't know. Am I supposed to? I didn't know what was appropriate.
But we are New Orleanians, but I'm from New Orleans.
Okay. Okay.
So
That's so perfect because one of the things that we're going to talk about is the diversity of Black food. And we're going to talk about Black food versus soul food versus Southern food.
Oh my
but before we get into the fun part, we start every episode with a fun fact. And this can be anything. What is a fun fact that you think more people should know? Can be on anything you want.
Okay, I have 2 fun facts. One I use for like whenever you start a new job and they're like, tell us about yourself.
Yeah.
I'll give you my 3. 1, I'm a New Orleanian who is not a Mardi Gras person. I'm a festival person. I love
Ooh.
Strawberry Fest, Crab Fest, Fried Chicken Fest, Beignet Fest. Sign me up for French Quarter Fest. Sign me up for a
Are
festival.
those all in New Orleans?
Absolutely. And the guy who does the Fried Chicken Festival, he's like about my age, really, really cool guy. Just a nice little festival. Sign me up for a festival. Not really Mardi Gras. Only thing I really want from Mardi Gras is king cake. I could eat king cake year round. So that's my first fun fact, that I'm a New Orleanian who doesn't really do Mardi Gras.
I love that.
My second one is that I auditioned for American Idol.
You
did.
sing?
I did. I sang Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and I sang it not like very traditionally. It was, all over the place, very jazzy. Yes, and I remember thinking I, like, slept in the convention center and everything. My friend Nzinga stayed with me, but, yes, I sang "Somewhere Over the Rainbow," for American Idol, but I was like, "Do I
What?
sing bad so that I can make it to the production side,
Oh
or do I sing?"
my gosh.
Mhm. So I am a singer, but not like I can't sing anymore, mainly because I don't like I'm not in choir or anything, like, to constantly
You
practice.
can lose it? You can do well,
I
yeah,
mean,
you
I
can lose
think
it, I
you
guess.
can, but you can't. I think you always have it, but you still have to practice the muscle.
So what happened? How far did you get?
I did not get far. Girl, there were amazing singers there. Um,
Did you actually audition with, like, the people that we see on TV?
no, so there's
'Cause don't they
many
do, like,
layers.
a pre yeah, I
Yeah, they
figured.
do like the pre-layer and then okay, now
Mm,
you can go to production and then production's like, "Yep, she's gonna be on TV," and then they take you there. So people are not just walking off the street going to be
to me
recorded for
with
TV.
Randy and,
Mhm.
Simon or
Okay,
whoever
and
it
then
is.
my final like little fun fact
Oh.
is I got this trophy. And this trophy says Howard
Ooh.
University School of Business, class of 2006. 2006. 20
That's when
years,
sh that's when she was there, y'all. I what
that's
that
when
got
I
to
was there.
yeah.
It says Oprah Winfrey Talk Show Host Award, and this is like our senior superlative thing. I've had this for 20 years, and they were like, "I'd be most likely to have a talk show," and
Look at
you
this.
know, I
Look at
pulled this
God.
out a couple years ago because when I started cooking with plots, I was like, I don't know, this is what I want. So when, not if, when I make it
When?
big, my Howard University Oprah Winfrey Talk Show Host Award is coming with me.
Yeah,
So yes.
I would watch your show. It would be so good. First of all, I love people talking in the New Orleans accent, but also you have a lot to share, and apparently you can sing. You've been an accountant, you've been in marketing, and now you got a lot going on, and not in a
Oh,
bad way. That's amazing. Okay, so for today, I brought in Dominique because I don't know all the things, but I also thought she would be able to provide a lot of great color and insight to our topic. And this is something that is really personal for me, something I've always thought about and really struggled with when I would hear from other people, but I didn't have the research until I read all of the books as of now. But we're going to talk about something that is truly misunderstood. It is Black food and some of the myths that people think about Black food. We're going to hopefully dispel 3 myths today about Black food. I initially was going to call this soul food, but then I did a bunch of reading and a bunch of learning, and I know why they're not all necessarily synonymous.
mhm.
And someone from New Orleans should certainly know that because I think when people think of soul food, their first thought is in gumbo, but it is absolutely a Black food.
I think my first thought for soul food is like a heap of helping of fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, and
Yes,
cutlet greens too big for my jeans. Like that's what I think of for
yes,
soul food.
yes.
But like for me, that's not necessarily my soul food either. So like you said,
Correct,
yeah, like
correct.
my favorite, like my death wish meal basically is
Yes.
gumbo. It's my mom's gumbo at that. It's my mom's gumbo and bread pudding, which is very like very New Orleans coded, but these are truly two of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Like I love savory and I love sweet, but not too sweet, which is how we get to bread pudding.
You know what? Probably one of the best days of my life was when I made gumbo and I sent you a picture of it and you complimented the color of my
Like,
roux. I was like, y'all, a New Orleanian told me that my roux was right. So,
it was beautiful.
I worked really hard. I was very concerned and nervous, and I wanted to do the right thing. The New York Times, they have a very disrespectful gumbo recipe up there with very light skin gumbo. So do not use that
Like
gumbo
some people
recipe.
like light skin gumbo. I like
It looks
chocolate.
it looks watery.
I believe it. I like chocolate gumbo, not like too like I've had a dark roux before. I don't really care for those because sometimes
Yeah,
it can taste borderline
like
burnt.
bitter. Yeah,
Yeah, but I
yeah.
mean I enjoy a nice little chocolate little chocolate. No, I'm not as brown
No,
as
this
that.
one was like it looks
Yeah.
watery. And then you told me that your mom puts is it what's the roasted tomatoes that she puts in hers?
A rotel.
Rotel. I was like, it's not
Now
roti. Rotel.
tomatoes and gumbo is a very controversial
I
thing,
know, I
even
know,
among, Louisianans, so
I
but my
know.
mom puts 1 spoonful, and it is, like, the most like, "What? Like, how do you know that?"
Yeah,
And so the first time I made gumbo by myself, I kept being like, it's off," and I was super upset, and she was like, "Did you put this spoonful of Rotel?" First of all, it's a can of Rotel, ma'am, like, I
yeah,
gotta take a spoonful out and then freeze the rest of it?
I
Absolutely.
know. That's the
But
issue with
some
tomato paste too.
yes, but, something about that brininess is 1 spoonful. It is not a thing where it's like tomatoes all over the gumbo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's exactly why you can't say black food and soul food are the same because
Mhm.
everyone's soul food is different. But I wanna give credit where it's due. I read a lot of great books. Probably the most popular one that many people might be familiar with is called High on the Hog.
Mm.
It's also it's by Jessica B. Harris. She's amazing, but it's also a Netflix documentary series
A
if you
wonderful documentary too.
Yes, I haven't finished all of the I've read all of the book, but I haven't finished all of the, documentary. And if you're after you listen to this episode, if you're like, "I really wanna know more about the regional differences," this is a great, resource. We won't have time to get into all that today, but that's a great resource. A book where I pulled a lot, where I'm gonna reference quite a bit, is this book called Eating While Black: Food Shaming and Race in America, and it's by Psyche Williams-Forson. It's really great. She actually lives in the DMV
I
somewhere.
was gonna say Psyche. Yeah.
Psyche? Oh,
Uh-huh.
see? See?
Uh-huh.
I'm glad we got her 'cause see, I just called her name Psyche.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
She actually, in the book, she referenced Alfred Street Baptist Church's sermon, and I was like, "What?" So she referenced Pastor Howard John Wesley, a church I watch online sometimes. And then several cookbooks. I'm not gonna hold them all up, but I will have them all in the notes if you wanna check them out. And highly recommend that you read all of those things. But as I mentioned, let's start out with some basic terminology. What is the difference between Southern food versus soul food versus Black food? What are your
Ooh.
immediate thoughts?
Southern food. Okay. This is hard. Southern versus soul food. So I feel like versus black food. So things I think people eat in the South are definitely gonna be more like dumplings. You're
Mhm.
gonna find um okra, like okra
Mhm.
and tomatoes or like butter beans. I
Yep.
think those are straight Southern things. I think that black people as a whole eat them, but I feel like in the South, like smothered potatoes, people eating things like that, like I think that is definitely gonna be a Southern dish. And then and even when you start talking about Southern foods, if you start talking about Florida, that's a whole different set of like
Yeah.
Southern foods because
Yeah.
there starts to get a little bit more Caribbean.
Caribbean.
Um,
Yep.
so
Yep.
I wanna say like I would say like butter beans or like because we call them butter beans, we don't call them lima beans, right? Um,
Mhm.
like butter beans, okra. Those would be things that I would definitely put as Southern foods.
Yeah.
Soul foods, I feel like are things that are like a little bit more um rich that you're eating on a special occasion. So again, a fried
Mhm.
chicken, and maybe not even always a special occasion, but I think they can be looked at as a special occasion food. So I would say like a fried chicken, a macaroni and cheese, um, greens, trying to think, a banana pudding,
Mhm.
um I don't eat them, but somebody else might consider like chitlins, would be a soul
Yeah.
something that's gonna take a long time to prepare, I think is where I start feeling like soul food. And then I think in black food, I think they all kinda somewhat layer themselves as well because I think black food could still be the okra when you start talking
Mhm.
about gumbo and your because these are things that are brought over, in the
Mhm.
diaspora. So I think black food could definitely be again the fried chicken, the macaroni, the cornbread. Actually, I would
Mhm.
specifically call out cornbread as a black food
Yeah.
because, these are things that we made because we didn't necessarily have everything else. So we made a something delicious from not having a lot to go on from the beginning. And by we, I mean the enslaved people who,
Mhm.
kind of created these things.
Yeah, I think that's good. I
My
think
my
that's
thoughts. I
yeah.
am no
Well,
food expert though. Let's be clear. I don't want people being like,
no. No, this is a conversation. It's fine. I mean, Black food is so broad and diverse. It's really just anything created and enjoyed by Black Americans. So if you read High on the Hog, you'll hear a lot of references to in the Northeast, like there was an oyster situation where Black folks were really into oysters. And then you have, of course, people in the mid Atlantic who were really focused on, they had a lot of French and English influences on what they made. There was the famous um, chef at Thomas Jefferson. I don't say
Thomas
Jefferson Davis.
Jefferson's James
Thomas
Simmons.
Jefferson.
Mhm.
So he, many people know he went to France to learn how to cook. So that influence was in a lot of those foods in that Virginia region. And then you have in the Gulf, Alabama and Louisiana, there's a lot of seafood influence there for obvious reasons. They're right there on the water. And then you mentioned the Caribbean aspect. All of those are Black foods, like whether it's oysters up here or turtle soup, apparently, which I just
Mhm.
learned about. Um,
And
Down
then
near the water.
I would say even in the North, like lobster, because
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
not a
It's just
delicacy.
That's what's there.
Mhm.
I remember the first time I heard of chicken and waffles was at Howard, and we had some Californians who were just like, "You never had chicken and waffles together?" So Black food is really, it's just anything that Black Americans enjoy, and there's a variety of, we have our own kind of spaghetti. That's an Italian dish, but Black folks have our own spaghetti. Um, and then Southern foods are foods that people, it sounds very obvious, but it's important. Southern foods are foods that people across the South, regardless of race, commonly eat. Um, and a great resource for learning more about that, this book, The Gift of Southern Cooking. It's by Edna Lewis, this beautiful Black woman, and who actually recently passed away, and Scott Peacock, who is a white chef. They got together and they talked about the things that they had in common as Southerners that they ate, but then also where there were some differences just
Girl,
based
Edna
on.
Lewis died 20 years ago. I said
Well, I mean, she
I
died
was like,
after
recently
she died not recently, okay, she died after the book was published,
published.
but,
Yes, yes, yes.
she didn't die
I was like,
yesterday.
did I miss something?
No, 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 see, and this is why we got Dominique here. And then soul food, which I just learned this. Soul food is really a term that came about in the 1960s when all things Black were called soul. You had soul music, you had soul food. Yes,
I'm wearing the
exactly.
Soul Train shirt.
Soul Train, that's perfect. Soul Train. You got the Soul Glow hair products. I look like I got some of that in my head right now. It's just soul food is a bit of a cross section between Southern and
Mhm.
Black foods. And that's where it really crystallized behind the idea of that soul foods are fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, cornbread, some of those things that people think of when we think about Black food. The first myth I wanted to get it out the way for us is Black food, Black Americans specifically, our food is the leftovers and scraps that people ate after the white enslavers had their fill of the good food. So I've always heard that. I've heard that for most of my life. And in fact, and I'm someone from the South. But the reality is, for some enslaved people, they had their own gardens. And
Mhm.
then others were able to trade and sell what they produce. Others foraged and scrounged. According to Eating While Black, some enslaved folks had poke salad, turnip, and my grandmother talked about poke salad, turnip greens, old bluehead collards, cabbage, peas, taters, turtles, rabbits, possum, fish. On the East Coast and along coastal areas in general, the enslaved looked for wild berries, plants, acorns, chestnuts, various kinds of birds, chicken, turkey, duck, possum, squirrel, snake. It doesn't mean that everyone ate all that and everyone ate
Mhm.
well, but it wasn't just the scraps that were left over. It was often what they were able to produce in their own time to enrich themselves. And in many ways, their enslavers expected them to kind of figure out some of their food because they weren't providing it, but they wanted them to be, fed. And the reason why I wanted to call out this myth is because and there was a quote here. It says, "A single story creates a stereotype, and the problem with stereotypes is not that they are untrue, because it is true that we ate chitterlings because that was what was available to us, but it's just incomplete. That isn't
Yes.
all of our cuisine. That's
I was
some of
thinking
it."
that. I was like, I feel like there's truth to it, but not
Yep.
the complete story. So yeah, okay. That's a good point. I love it.
Yeah, and slavery was, I mean, all of it was horrible, but there were different types of slavery. And some slaves, they worked just as long as the sun was up. But then other people had task-based slavery where it was, if you get your however many bales of cotton or
Mhm.
pounds of cotton and then you're done, you can use your free time to do whatever it is. And those folks were much more likely to have like robust gardens. They would even sell some of their produce back to their enslavers. Another thing I noticed is that there's a lot of, as I mentioned, a lot of regional differences. And in many instances, what people ate was much more reflective of where they were and the people they
Mhm.
were around. And it wasn't always reflective of their race. So coal mining families in West Virginia, Black coal mining families, they would often eat boiled beef, cucumbers, tomatoes, and biscuits. I did not know that, but their experience of what they would call, like, their homegrown soul food is not necessarily fried chicken, mac and cheese.
Mhm.
Are you familiar with any of the, did you know anyone who was eating, like, possums and squirrel and so forth?
My mom is from the country, so
Mhm,
I don't think they ate squirrel. I feel like
mhm.
there was a something was on the grill at some point, and
Mm.
it wasn't like chicken or whatever,
Chicken or meat,
but I
yeah.
can't remember what the small animal was. But I mean, we eat
Yeah.
deer. I mean, I didn't.
Yeah.
Well, what is they call it venison now, but
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
everywhere else, but I knew it as deer, right? So
Yes,
we
yeah.
eat deer. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, obviously, my grandparents were cattle farmers, so there was lots of beef.
Yeah. Your grandparents were cattle
Yeah,
farmers?
my grandparents were farmers, so they were also cattle farmers, so they had all kind of cows on pasture, and then I actually didn't grow up eating a lot of chicken. Like, I can only think of one chicken meal that my mom made, which was and it wasn't American food. It was West Indian food. It was a stewed chicken, not curry, but it was like a stewed chicken, and she would make pigeon
Oh,
peas and rice and plantain with it. But I don't ever remember eating chicken in our household other than that dish. I do
wow.
remember eating lots of beef, so we would have, like, different type of, like, I don't wanna call it all steak because it wasn't steak,
Yeah.
so some of it was
Just
steak,
different cuts of meat,
different
of
cuts of
beef.
meat. You would have, like, so rice and gravy. I'm a rice and gravy girl. I could have rice and gravy and no meat anytime.
Me too. I love
Roast and
rice.
things like that.
Mm.
Spaghetti with the ground beef from my grandparents. And then we eat a lot of fish. So my diet was always like beef and fish. And then like a smidge, like, but if we had fried chicken, it was from outside the house, but it wasn't like my mom didn't really fry chicken, or I think she had these like chicken tenderloins at some point that we would throw in the oven with lemon pepper
Mm,
seasoning, but we didn't really eat a lot of chicken. So we did eat,
yeah.
deer and things like that, and beef. But then we also ate lots and lots of seafood, like lots of
Yeah.
my first thought goes to grouper, salmon, catfish, shrimp. Because we're in Louisiana, we're in New Orleans, so yeah, girl.
I love it. Yeah, I remember once, and my grandmother is, or my mom's mom, I'm thinking of, very, very country, very rural. And one time I went in her kitchen and it was frog legs. I don't really know how to say it. It was frog legs. It was just and it looked like a frog, like had just like and just fried it. And she encouraged me to taste it, and it tasted like
It tastes like
chicken.
chicken.
It tasted
Yeah.
like chicken. Yeah.
Well, you know what's funny is that, so my parents had a restaurant at one point, and so
What?
they girl, my parents are entrepreneurs, like,
I love
they
this.
are entrepreneurs, and so it's always kind of funny, like, the things that they'll call in the middle of the day and wanna talk, and you like, "I'm at work," and, like, "Would you want your employees on the phone?" "No, but this is different." "How, daddy?" "It's not." But, so anyway, I tasted frog legs at the restaurant, but I think one of the last times I was home, I was in Walmart, and look at me, I'm trying to be grown because I usually would say the Walmart, but I was in the Walmart because there's always just such cool things. They had gator nuggets, and then they also had frog
Oh,
legs.
yeah.
And I was like, "Great Value brand frog legs?" Like, that's so fascinating. Like, they
It's
didn't have that.
local.
It's local, but so I'm like, "Do they have these in DC?" They did not. But I just thought it was the funniest
No.
thing, like, "Oh, I mean, you gotta do what the people want." And in Louisiana, they want the frog legs from the Great Value.
There you go. Anyway, that's a very, very, very concentrated short version way of us dispelling that myth. It was not just leftovers. It was really everything under the sun. Black people, just like today, were really creative, innovative, and able to make all types of magic happen, not just with the leftovers, but what they were able to grow and produce on their own.
I think Black people are a
Yeah.
walking Chopped episode. I
Yeah.
think I mean, I
I
just feel
love
like we
that.
are so creative and we
Yeah.
find, all these things, you looking in your cabinet, you like, boom, I'm gonna
Yep.
make a jerk honey lemon pepper Alfredo's
Yeah.
pasta.
That
You
sounds
know,
amazing right now.
it's not, that's a lot for me, but I think
Yeah.
that as a whole, we're just so
Yeah.
creative that we will essentially make a way out of nowhere. We're gonna find something and make it good.
Well, there is a myth that Black people are uninterested in cooking a diversity of foods. We are resistant to change and we prepare almost all of our foods similarly. I have heard people say something like, oh, they just like put a bunch of salt on everything or cook everything and like they basically everything and put it in lard and butter and, kind of to your point, maybe they put lemon pepper and everything. And I don't know people personally that think that, but I've heard people talk about that, and just as I was researching this episode, I was just happening to scroll on Threads, and I'm not gonna say her name because I don't wanna.
Or tell me later.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I mean, you don't probably. I mean, she's not like famous or anything, but I just don't want people to look her up or anything. But she is a home chef, and she wrote. This is a Black woman. She wrote, too many of us are resistant to learning any food science, any knowledge of flavor profiles. We use the same 5 seasonings in every dish and we have a feeling of superiority because the food isn't bland. Black chefs refuse to learn effective cooking methods.
Okay. So,
And she had a lot of like people that were agreeing with her.
well, So here's the thing. I think you have a lot of people who call themselves chefs who are home
Mhm.
cooks. And I think
Mhm.
that's probably the first like issue in her point is
Mhm.
that
Oh, yellow flag.
yeah, I mean, I think you have everybody who can cook or who has a space or a social media or whatever type of presence. Even if they have a restaurant, they're not all chefs. Some may be restaurateurs, but they're not all chefs. I think that's number one. I think there is some value to the point, but I also think that with these people who are restaurateurs and not necessarily chefs, they are trying to get to the bottom line. And the bottom line is where's the
Mhm.
money in their bank account. And
Mhm.
if you see that, you got 100,000 people who all they want is a lemon pepper wing, why would you decide that you wanted to make
Mm.
honey barbecue wing? Why? I want to make money. So I think that that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that I'm not diverse in my style of cooking, but if my end game is not necessarily to educate on food, but my end game is money, then I think, there's a difference there. So I think that person should probably um I don't even wanna be like, they need to do X, Y, and Z, but I think ultimately we need to determine what the restaurateur's goals are. Is it to teach educational food
Mhm.
stories, right? Like, I went to this place in New Orleans that, like, truly one of the best dining experiences I've had, and when I say dining experience, I'm not talking just the food, I'm talking the service, when you walked in the door. Also, everybody was handsome, like,
Ooh, wait,
mind-boggling.
what? You got an address for this place?
It's called Dakar Nola. They're moving
Okay.
soon, but Dakar
Okay.
Nola, and it was a tasting menu. It was a little pricey, but like every bite was just this beautiful story between Senegal and New Orleans. Like when I tell you, it was
Oh.
phenomenal. At one point I was cold. My best friend is very petite, but she had a jean jacket. So she gives me her jean jacket and I'm like putting it over my shoulder. Now basically it covers one shoulder. One of the servers comes out of nowhere and was like, "Here you go," and wraps me in a pashmina. What? You
Oh
just
my
happen to have
gosh.
pashminas? And again, everybody was just so nice looking. It was, but like the ambiance was beautiful. The
Yeah.
little service, again, it's a tasting menu, so something you got to be prepared. I wasn't prepared for said tasting menu, so which meant I tapped out at like course 4.
I
So
know
guys
it's so
like,
much.
so he's like, "Let's make a deal. I want you to have a spoonful of everything. As soon as you have a spoonful, I'll pack it up." And so we did that for the rest of the meal.
Aw.
But like, it was just a wonderful dining experience. But that is somebody who is a chef. He
Yep.
is a James Beard award-winning chef. Um,
Ooh.
and he is also telling a food story. He's not just selling plates, right? And
Right,
so I
right.
think that when people are making these type of comments, we have to who are we focusing on, right? Because
Yep.
to me, this is a dig to, the home chef or not even the home chef, but the person selling wings or the person who has like the more urban fine dining restaurant.
Yep.
And if that's what they want to sell, cool. But I don't think it's a fair generalization on black chefs. I think that
No, it's not a Black specific
it's
thing.
not a black specific thing. It's a
No.
capitalism thing, and where do
Yeah.
people want to get their money? But yeah, I don't think that's a fair comment. And again, I think a lot of people very casually call themselves chefs. And I know
Yeah.
there was a chef Cardia, and she kind of like pushed back because she is not like trained.
Trained. Yep.
Um,
Yep.
but she calls herself a chef, but she doesn't do a one take on food. And I'm a little torn about it because I think
Yeah.
as much as I think her food is beautiful and I think she has a diverse selection of things for you to choose from, she the title it's like the current thing that's going on in social media is that lady who's saying she's a doctor.
Oh
She didn't
gosh.
have
Yeah.
the skill set that goes with doctor. So I think we have to also give the
Yeah.
same thing to chef,
Yeah.
whereas you're not a trained chef, you're a home chef. So
Yep.
that's my 2 cents.
I think that's really good. And I do think something that the Eating While Black book talks a lot about is how, to your point, like this isn't something that Black people explicitly do. This is just what anyone does who's like a
Mhm.
home chef or a home cook is you cook with what you're familiar with for a variety of reasons. But I love something that you said. I hadn't planned on pulling it out, but I highlighted it when I read the book, but I wasn't going to talk about it today. But she talks a lot about how food is not just for sustenance and she says, food operates on multiple levels beyond merely satisfying our stomachs. There is a lot to know and to share about food interactions, traditions, memories, likes and dislikes, habits, and tastes. It's the whole experience. And When you talked about your experience at that restaurant, you talked about the food, but you also talked about like the warmth and the kindness, and all of that is wrapped up in the experience of eating. And when you have these really monolithic views about what Black food is, you really flatten all of that experience. Um, it's not all the same.
It's not. But again, who are people targeting as their audience? So I think we just have to be really mindful of that part. I know
Yeah.
some people want to target everyone, and some people just want to target who gonna pay the money.
Yeah, and something else that's referenced in this book is how like a Guy Fieri can go eat like the worst of the worst food, and no one is like, man, white people with blonde spiky hair eat really unhealthy food. But if a Black person was to go do that same thing, it would be seen as like white people just love eating unhealthy food and they don't care about their health. And so we just have a lot more pressure and
I
uh
think we pressure ourselves though. I do
oh,
think
100%.
I've
Yeah,
heard of him getting some flack, but I think that
it is definitely internal.
it's internal, and I think we have a big respectability politics thing. So,
100%.
if you are somebody,
100%.
you're a fat person, fat is not bad, but if
Nope,
you're a
it's
fat
just a
person,
size.
listen,
It's just a
if you're
shape.
listen, if you at a restaurant and you're eating dessert, somebody might kinda side I've had it happen to me where
Yep,
people are
yep,
like, but
yep.
then you're a skinny person, but, I remember my one of my first a trainer I had years ago, she said something about she did, cabinet audits, like, we'll go through
Mhm.
your pantry audits, and I
Oh
was
my
really
gosh.
uncomfortable with her coming to do a pantry audit because I felt like she was gonna judge me, right? She was like, "Your pantry's fine," and I'm like, "I don't eat I'm now listen, I love a
Wait, this
baker.
is like a trainer? Was she is like a
Yes, my personal
nutritionist?
trainer at the time, she came and did a pantry audit to see what type of things are you eating because we all know it's 80% in the kitchen, 20% in the gym. So, that was part of the thing, right?
Oh, I don't need that audit.
But but you got little people. But so she came and I don't eat a lot of like listen, I do eat Cheetos. I ain't gonna hold you, but like
Yeah.
I don't eat like cake, like what is it, like bakery cake, right? Like or like
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
packaged things. Now, I will eat a cake that is buttered down, okay, that I have
I
made.
think that's
y-
different.
but I think I was really uncomfortable with the thing. And she was like, you're getting worked up about this. She's like, but you know, it's not what you look like. She's like, because you end up having a lot of women who are tiny who have high cholesterol because all they eat is packaged foods all day. Not a jab, but she's like, I'm not here to judge you. I'm just trying to make sure you're on the right path. And I was like, fair enough. So anyway, that was just my 2 cents about, body consciousness, but also the
Yes.
way people judge people on what are you eating.
Yeah, she talks a lot about how it is usually Black people that are the ones that are saying, like, "We know we shouldn't be doing this, but this is just what we do. This is our food," and or, um, middle class or upper middle class folks will be the first to tell everyone, like, "I eat organic," or "I buy local," or "I get my food from the farmer's market." And a lot of these things that these words that people use or these characteristics of food, they use to signal health, but it's not always health. Like, just because you got corn from the farmer's market doesn't make it.
Crystal, you about to make me I will never forget this.
Yeah.
Somebody we both know went to school with years ago. This was like when we were all on Twitter. And she was so upset. She makes this whole tweet about how she bought a cake for her kid from Whole Foods and she didn't understand why. Oh my God, it's so much sugar in here. And I wrote back, I said, it's a cake.
It don't matter
Whole
where you
Foods
got
is
it
a
from.
grocery store. I'm
Yeah.
confused. Like, what kind did you think it was gonna be a magically healthy cake because you bought it
Yeah.
from Whole Foods?
It's a
It's a
thing.
store. The people
It's
kill
a
me.
thing.
They
People,
kill
if you
me.
use like certain words, like, and this is where it becomes a class and a race conversation because people are like, well, if you would just shop at farmers markets, if you would just go to an urban garden, if you would just eat this artisanal food, if you would just buy local, if you would shop at Whole Foods, you'd be healthier. And it's like, that's actually
No.
not the key to your health. If the if it's easiest for you to access canned vegetables, that's healthier than you getting an
No
artisanal.
vegetables.
Yeah, just yeah, no vegetables. Also, I had never heard this term before, food flexibility. And that's where it's basically the nearness of hunger breeds conservatism. So, like, if you don't have a lot of money, you can't be out here experimenting with a lot of foods because you can't afford to leave food on your plate that you don't like. So it's really something that only the well-fed can afford to do. And also, a lot of us, even if you can afford to, toss some food away. I grew up, well, I didn't have this in my house. At my grandmother's house, she had a slop bucket. You know what a slop bucket is?
I do, but we didn't have. I know what that is. I'm like, oh, I haven't
Yeah,
heard that
she had
term
a
before.
slop bucket because my grandmother had a pig in the back, a
Mhm.
few pigs in the back, chickens, and whatever you didn't eat, you just put the extra in the slop bucket, and then the pigs eat it. But if you don't have a slop bucket, to me, I'm like, you're wasting food. And
Girl, I
so,
I grew up in the household of waste not, want not. Cl
yes,
We didn't even say clean plate club. Waste not, want not. You ate your food,
yeah,
and that was it. Like, and I mean, that's not necessarily like the most beneficial because some people have
no, it's
eating,
not.
problems now. Like, it's like I have
Yeah.
to eat it all, but no, I get, child,
I
both
don't
of
my
me.
my mom wasn't like that, but I understood that concept. I knew a lot of people that
Mhm.
like you can't waste food, and I don't like wasting food just because I just don't like it. It gives me anxiety. But if I'm not wasting food, then I'm not gonna be trying all these different things. I'm not gonna be trying foods I'm not familiar with because I can't afford to just have just random arugula that nobody wanted going bad. Well, now I can because I compost, but
But even with composting, I mean, there's
Yeah.
still a cost that you
Yeah,
have bought this
there's a cost.
$5 lettuce that now has to go
Yes.
in garbage, and so it's
Yes.
like, what's the value at the end of the day? You still, yeah, you can break it down into something else, but, like,
Yeah.
you wanna eat it.
Yeah. So, that myth, we don't cook a lot of foods, not true. We're resistant to change. A lot of it is really just your situation. We're uninterested in, doing like the farmer's market or the artisanal things. That's not necessarily true. There's sometimes an access issue. It's also not the best choice. And we don't all prepare almost all of our foods similarly. I love one of the best things about going to Howard University was the diversity of Black people and just hearing how different, like getting to meet someone like you and knowing that you grew up eating seafood. I didn't have most seafoods until I got a job at Legal Seafood in
Girl, I remember
Chinatown.
when you were working there. Ooh,
Yeah, yeah,
child, I remember we pulled up and we were like, "Hey, Crystal, aren't we next on the list?"
yeah.
Like, that
That
is one of the moments that, like, lives with me with, like, completely unnecessary things that I did as a kid.
well,
Like,
I could
what?
help with that, but I never minded moving people up on the
Unnecessary.
list when I was a host, but what I didn't one time, I'm not gonna say who, it is one
It's
of your
probably me.
sorors, she told me, she wanted her whole meal for free.
That was not me.
It was definitely not you. No, it wasn't you. I know exactly who it was. Um, and I was like, "I cannot do that." And she was like, "Well, like, I thought you were gonna help me out." And I was like, "I will call the police." Like, I will not girl, what's up? So anyway,
I believe so.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, but,
But still, that's my job. Why are you trying to come up in here and act crazy? Keep it up.
so it's just there's such a diversity within us. Again, the book of with Edna Scott, who died 20 years ago, not yesterday.
Edna Lewis. You
Edna
were like, she
Lewis.
recently
Edna
died.
Lewis.
I was
Look at
like,
me.
I
Edna
think she dead. I really had to get on the Google. I was like, Edna Lewis.
Edna Lewis to
2006, February 13th, 2006.
Edna Lewis, gone too soon. 2006.
R.I.P.
Alright. I hope it's not too soon for anyone. I hope everyone has moved forward. But she talks about she's from Virginia. That fact is true. And as I
From
mentioned
Orange County,
earlier,
not in Decatur.
yeah, there you go. English and French cooking had a direct influence on her food. Whereas Scott, not Edna Scott, Scott, who wrote this book with her, he was from Alabama. And he says that they called it Black Irish, which is Native American, Caribbean, and African influences. That's what they call Black Irish. I
Hmm,
never heard that, but that's what
me
he
neither.
said. Um, and even as I was just looking at I think on our shorthand memory, like what memory that first comes to mind when someone says soul food, you think fried chicken, collard greens, cornbread. But then as I was reading the recipes, I was like, I've heard of all this stuff my whole life. I mean, it had chow chow. Have you ever
I
had
was about
chow
to
chow?
say, well, I don't eat chow chow, but I've heard of chow chow.
Yeah,
I
my mom
also
loves
thought
chow chow.
about like dumplings, like chicken and dumplings type
Yeah,
thing. Again, I'm not a dumpling person, but yes, I agree. But I
yeah,
think that's also the difference from being from New Orleans. Like even
yep,
different parts of Louisiana eat differently.
yep,
A friend of mine was talking about she went to Thanksgiving in North Louisiana and she's like, "What are y'all eating?" And
yes,
like but what they had was more traditional Black food for Thanksgiving,
Yep,
whereas we eat different. I mean, we eat Thanksgiving food, but I mean, it's always, accompanied with gumbo or,
yep.
my sister makes crawfish cornbread stuffing,
Sounds so
or
good.
dressing, but however you want to say it. But like, things like that. And like, I don't love Merlaton, but that's a, South Louisiana thing.
What is that?
Merlaton, it's a squash. It's a chayote. We call it Merlaton. I don't know why. People stuff it.
Imma look this up.
I have
Oh, I
no clue.
see
I didn't
it.
even know it was the same thing until a couple years back.
Pale green pear-shaped squash. But yeah, this has chow chow, pimento cheese, which my mom loves a pimento cheese sandwich, pear relish, turtle soup, frog legs with brown butter and capers. I mean, such a diversity of foods that feel all and they all feel like home. They all feel Black to people.
Mhm.
And so, um, I love dispelling that myth. And I think it's something that most of us know. We just can't always recall and bring it to mind.
That's a good point.
Um, yeah, and one thing here it mentions is in Eating While Black, 50 years ago, Black Americans were still growing okra, peas, potatoes, cucumbers.
50. I'm still growing it today.
Yeah, well, yes, Miss Plots and Pans. But, for many of us who maybe, before that, I think she was talking about farms, but we were growing okra, peas, potatoes, cucumbers, squash, lettuce, eggplant, watermelons, of course, tomatoes, onions, and other produce on the plots of land where we lived. And people still eat those foods now, even if we don't grow them. We just eat them in different ways. And just like any other group, not just Black folks, we cannot eat the same way our ancestors did. Our lives aren't set up the same way.
Like, I think sometimes a lot of us only interact with Black people for the most part.
Mhm.
Like, you can interact with white people at work, but you don't necessarily always interact with white people in your day-to-day lives. Maybe people who
Mhm.
have kids, right? So I think when we have these discussions, like we are only expected, those are
Mhm.
very limited views. Like
Yep.
because you don't know these white folks might be expected to eat the same tuna casserole and green bean
Yeah.
casserole. And
Yeah.
I don't know what else they be eating, but
Yeah. I
macaroni
remember
salad.
she's like, "I don't know what those people eat." I remember Tabitha Brown, who I do love, but I remember she was going on and on about how we as a people, we just don't eat right. We don't eat vegetables. We just eat this. And I was like, what is she talking about? 'Cause I was thinking about my grandmother who she had turnip greens, collard greens, mustard greens, cabbage at every time she served dinner on Sunday. That's 4 vegetables right there. I mean, she also had mac and cheese, cornbread.
But I think people make these generic assessments of
Yeah.
maybe
And
your
she's from
friends
North
aren't.
Carolina. Yeah.
I
And
mean,
she's
but
from North Carolina. So
I
does she
get
like
that, but maybe her
yeah.
folks aren't eating,
Yeah.
maybe her folks are at a space where they're eating a lot of convenience foods and they're not eating
Yeah.
vegetable. Like, honestly, sometimes I'm confused when I see people who like, oh, my kids don't eat, or I'm struggling to get my kids to eat vegetables because that's just not the household I grew up in.
Exactly.
It was,
Yeah.
I can tell you, there's only two vegetables I don't like, hands down, like
Oh,
two,
which ones is it?
and a possible. I don't
Black
like
eyed peas?
eggplant. I don't like eggplant, and I don't love asparagus. That's the second one.
Oh, yeah.
However, I've had fresh asparagus from a garden, and it was really good.
Yeah.
And the lady, like, I was very apprehensive, and the lady was like, "It's just what we eat in the grocery store isn't great." And so she's like, "Because you got to think
Yeah.
about the food journey it's taken." So I'm actually starting to grow asparagus now. So we'll see if I get into it or not. But asparagus is like one that if it's on the menu or if it's like served with something, I'm probably gonna push it over.
Yeah.
Definitely not eating eggplant. I just don't like it. And then
Is
the
it the
only one.
texture for eggplant?
Kinda, but not really. I just don't like
Yeah.
it. Like,
Yeah.
I've had the eggplant parmesan, I've had it with,
Yeah.
like, Iranian food, I've had it a bunch of different ways, I'm just like,
Yeah. That's okay.
and then
I'm
I
not a
don't
huge
really
eggplant
love
person.
turnips.
I don't have a strong
Other than
opinion either
that,
way.
there's not many vegetables I don't like.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll get down with them, but that's just I'm almost like when we start talking about people don't eat vegetables, it's like, is it that they don't eat vegetables or your people don't eat vegetables?
Your
Like,
people don't eat vegetables. That's
'cause
right.
everybody I know has some we eat, maybe vegetable and, a protein in the vegetable, or we're gonna
And the
do,
starch.
3 protein, vegetable, and starch, but I don't know anybody who maybe like some boys, and literally boys, because 'cause I'm thinking about when I was in
Yeah.
college, but I don't know grown adults who don't
Yeah.
eat vegetables and don't like we all enjoy vegetables, or maybe
Yeah.
I'm blessed to be in a circle of people who like vegetables, but
Yeah. Yeah, I do think a lot of it is internal and us trying to signal to other people, this because there are a lot of health conditions that Black people are more likely to suffer from. And I think when Tabitha Brown was making her point, and I wish I could find the clip, but she basically was saying, we're sending ourselves to an early grave by not doing this and by not doing that. And she was making it a Black thing, and I just felt like it was really more of an American issue, and it was really just about the food that's available to us, and I don't mean like food deserts, I more so just mean like the regulation of our food, um,
I think
is a
there's
big
it's
issue.
such a layered discussion in terms
Very
of
layered, very layered.
one, regulation of the food, two, I start thinking about people in poverty, honestly,
Yep,
because I
yep.
think of and this isn't a Black thing or whatever, but I think of again, sometimes if you are a working person, single or married, and life is hard and you have a lot going on, it might be easier to get your kids, you know, McDonald's in some circumstances. In some
I've done
circumstances,
it.
it is a rotisserie chicken and whatever, canned vegetables you
Mhm.
can find. But then even with the canned vegetables, back to the regulation piece, what used to say pick ripe and so on and so forth no longer says that.
Yep.
So, people are trying and some people aren't trying. But I think, you know, I hate to be like, if they die, they die. But I mean, kind of like, give me what they got. Like, I just think we get on
Yeah.
these holier than thou kinda, bandwagons of trying to say, "Well,
Mhm.
people not eating healthy." Like, they're doing what they can, and
Yep.
sometimes that's healthy and sometimes that's not. But
Yeah.
guess what? The kids are eating. The
Yep.
family's eating. And,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, like, my mom now, she lives in a really rural part of North Carolina, it's about an hour and a half from Charlotte, and whenever I go there, I'm always struck by how many literally within maybe 2 miles of our house, there's probably 10 different fast food places. There is, one grocery store. It is in Ingalls. I think there's an Ingles and there's a Food Lion, I think. They don't have fresh produce there, and in fact, my mom was she finds recipes on TikTok, but then she gets to the store and they're like, "We don't have sun-dried tomatoes, like, we don't have what you're looking we don't have Swiss char." And so, you have to think about that too, like, what do people have access to? And then I was reading about there are some wholesale distributors who simply will not deliver their produce to low income or marginalized
it's
areas.
gonna go to it's gonna go bad, and if you know how grocery stores work, you
Yeah,
get credit if you have so many things. So if they're getting so many credits, it's
yep,
not worth it to the distributor to go there.
yep,
I just
yep.
get so frustrated when people get on these high horses about, like, specifically healthy living and what they determine is healthy. Again, as somebody who has a bigger body, who is considered fat, people
Mhm,
constantly, not constantly, but I think there've always been people who've had their mind made up about me,
mhm.
not knowing, like, I don't eat half of what y'all eat. Like,
No idea, no
this is
idea.
this is the makeup of my body. And if I'm happy, you should be happy. Like, move on.
No idea. I, kinda got into it. I've been a little bit, radicalized about size and how it is not a reflection of your health. I have a whole section actually over here, it's all about that. Uh, Fat talk, you need to lose weight, and 19 other myths about fat people, what we don't talk about when we talk about fat, all kind of stuff. But I remember I was in a grocery store and I was getting, oh, some kinda junk. I remember the cashier was like, "You're healthy, you can eat whatever you want." And I was like, "You don't know that?" I was like, "Number 1, I'm not. My doctor just told me my cholesterol was high and I needed to cut out red meat." And that's actually why I started running, 'cause my doctor was like, "Get your life together. Like, your cholesterol, every time I see you, is higher." So, it's so funny not funny, it's so unfortunate to me that people just assume when they look at you that you're healthy or in shape or whatever it is, and you have no idea.
Girl, I have a funny about that. I used to work out at F45 and love F45. Loved mine at
What is
Edgewood.
that?
Like it's kind of, I mean, it's high intensity interval training, so it's a hit. It's this one is black owned. It's a franchise, but
Oh,
it's
nice.
45 minutes of just functional high intensity, and they don't have treadmills, so a lot of stuff you're doing is with your actual body. I like,
Ooh.
sometimes you'll do the ski erg, sometimes you'll do like pull-ups with the bands and things like that. Lots of like little sprint drills,
Mhm,
squat,
mhm.
pace-setter, fun workout. So this particular day, I get a partner workout. So it's me and this lady. She wasn't even terribly older. Let's say 50-year-old white woman, right?
Sure.
So the lady's looking at me and I'm like, whatever. I'm not studying her, right? So we doing a little
Mhm.
sprint. Might have been slower than her on some points, but she was actively trying to beat me. But it's not a competition. I'm
It's a
very
partner
much
workout.
me, right? So she's trying to beat me, girl. She is putting it in her work. And I'm cracking up laughing because what you think you got speed, but what I got is endurance. Girl, do you know when we transition, I kid you not, Crystal, this lady leaned over and is huffing and puffing and had to go get her LB.
Oh my
And I'm on the next exercise doing my little with the kettlebells. I'm like, this
Did I
what
break you?
you
Are you
get
okay?
because you
You
think I'm
alright?
fat, and so you think you gonna be
Yeah.
better than me. Whole time you are dying. I don't even need a water
Yeah.
break, sis, because
Nah, I'm
I
good.
pace myself because I got what? Endurance, okay?
And you have some knowledge and some sense. Like, that's crazy. I went to a Lizzo show. This was before Lizzo, you know.
Got crazy. I go.
Um, I remember I was watching her. The show was probably 2.5 hours, and I was getting tired just looking at her move. And I was like, your heart health is in a space I'm people would never assume that. But yeah, I that is like my the area of my life where I'm very passionate about that people know that's a trigger for me. When people say something about people being fat and unhealthy, they know they're about to get a speech and some text and they're not gonna be happy when we're done. And that's a fun topic for me. All right. We've been yapping for a minute, but we haven't got to the last one, which is probably the one that really burns me up the most. And it is the myth that Black food is unhealthy. And it is the source of all of the poor health outcomes that Black folks experience. We are our own worst enemy when it comes to improving health outcomes.
I mean, I just think it's false. I think that we use I think anything can be unhealthy. I think,
Yeah.
spaghetti carbonara can be unhealthy. I think,
Yes. Yep.
anything in excess can be too healthy. So if we want to get back to like we started with fried chicken, yeah, you can have a piece of fried chicken, but I think should you have a whole fried chicken? Should you have a whole fried chicken every week, like or multiple times?
Yeah.
No, it's
And who's doing
not.
that anyway?
Girl, right. Although I do love a little two-piece spicy dark from the Popeyes every
Of
once in a while.
course. Of course.
Listen,
Everyone
right
does.
first. Um, but I think that anything in excess can be unhealthy. I don't think that that's fair to label a Black food or any food
Mhm.
at that because again, a lot of these foods have fresh elements to them, even if fried. Like you talk about Italian food, they fry things too. Like they might the arancini, like not necessarily all pasta, because again, all pasta isn't bad. You talking about Ethiopian food with the injera, but a lot of the things are cooked in lots and lots of oils and things like that.
Mhm.
Ghanaian and Nigerian food, lots of palm oil, but you're
Mhm.
not eating all of that all the time, right? You
Yep.
mix it up. So because for every time I get Ethiopian food, I'm also on that same plate. I have collards, right? And I have
Yeah.
all these
Lots of
vegetables
vegetables in
and
Ethiopian
meat,
food.
right? So I just think that it's an unfair, it's a judgment, it's a myth,
Mhm.
it's anything in excess can be bad for you. And I think if people are trying to, have a more balanced meal, then it's fine.
Yeah. French love butter and cream and fats. So do the
What?
Italians.
Literally.
Yeah. And breads. I love breads. Italian food is just as fatty as soul food, but they don't have the same reputation. Um,
I think they do though, but I think that again, I think we are hard on each other. Cause I think when you
mm,
talk about Italian food, then there's Italian American food, which is lots of
yeah, it's
cheese and
different.
things like
Yeah.
that. But then you start talking about Italian food in Italy that doesn't have that same
Yeah, like the
element.
Mediterranean.
The Mediterranean style.
Yeah. Well, I always think it's funny that this country was built off the backs of Black Americans and other brown people growing organic produce for the country, and yet we're told that we don't eat the very vegetables that we grew. I mean, in my family, my mom picked peaches. She's young. She'll be 62 in a couple months. Her mom, my grandmother picked fruit. My son picked strawberries yesterday. But it was a
I
class
see
field trip.
strawberries that look so good. I just went and put a
It's a
little.
class field
I
trip.
never do the little pouches. I'm just like, no, they getting pouch treatment today because
Yeah.
I need these to be best for me.
And there's a lot of research from, and this is also from Eating While Black, that shows when given equal access, Black Americans have the same health success as the rest of the nation. When you have the same hygiene, housing, working conditions, same medical care, and same environments, they have the same health. It isn't really diet that is the main difference between um, Black Americans and other ones. So that, that dispels that myth really in one
Mhm.
fact. Something else I want to share. She points out here, of course, soul food is bad and unhealthy because it is primarily associated with Black people. Focusing on this idea and not on the ways that Southerners in general tend to heavily season their foods and often use sugar, pork, and now turkey, cream, and other fatty ingredients because they form the template for tastiness, places the focus on supposed Black inferiority versus the cultural richness and diversity of the Southern region. I just love that because it's not really a Black exclusive. It's very much just where you are determines what you use. You use pork
Mhm.
because pigs are around and they have their fat is very useful. I always tell, I used to joke with my Filipino roommate after Howard when I was in LA. Filipinos love pork, man.
They sure do.
That is a pork eating people.
Now,
And
I wanted some lumpia, and I was like, "Wait, is pork in it?" They were like, "Yeah, girl." I was like,
pork is in everything.
and the thing
Crap.
is, I eat. Let me clarify because I don't want
Yeah.
nobody to be like, I eat pork. I eat salted pork, so I'll eat a pepperoni. I'll eat, sausage.
Yeah.
Occasionally a little slice of ham, a little slice of bacon.
Yeah.
Otherwise, AKA I'll go to the Cracker Barrel. But I'm not
Yeah.
over
Yeah. Yeah.
here like I've never had a pork chop before.
Never?
I've never had a pork chop. My dad didn't eat it, so my mom didn't cook it. So that's why I'm like
Oh,
I've had sausage obviously, but I've never had a pork chop. I've never
yeah.
had a rib, but I've never had it. Like so, but I do eat, like I said, I'll have a slice of bacon. Do I buy bacon? No, but I'll eat it. Why not? But the Filipinos do love the pork.
They
Like
do.
they gonna
Well,
grind it,
she
have it
told
every.
me, she said, I knew that you knew how to cook because you knew that you cooked the bacon before you cooked the eggs because you used the bacon grease to cook the eggs. And I was like, yes. So it's just a very versatile animal. You can use every part of it to make something. And that is similar to Native Americans who would use every part of the buffalo. And I think some people see it as you're eating unhealthy and other people see it as a form of sustainability, which, that's how I choose to see it. So I think we covered the three myths.
What's that?
First one was Black food is not just the leftovers and scraps. Second one was Black people we are interested in cooking a diversity of foods, and we do not prepare all of our foods the same. And the third was Black food is not uniquely unhealthy. American food, on the other hand, might be a little, but Black food in itself is not unhealthy and is just as diverse as any other food, if not even more so, because it brings in traditions from West Africa,
Mhm.
which again, High on the Hog goes into heavy detail on, but also from European countries where we learned a lot of those foods where some of the people that we lived and
Macaroni
worked
ice
with.
cream. So ice cream also came from a lot of people give credit to James Hemmings about ice cream as well.
Oh, nice.
'Cause I was
So
like, some people are saying that, there's a early Chinese dynasty where snow was flavored with honey, milk, or fruit, but there's no single inventor, but there's still somewhat of a European, yeah. So by the
didn't
seven
he bring mac and cheese over here
he
too?
did, he did.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So him and then another guy, Hercules, who was, I want to say George Washington's,
Hercules Mulligan?
no, no, but he was a tailor. Okay, Hamilton. No, Hercules the chef, he was, oh, Uncle Harkles. Okay, that's what Martha Washington called him, but he was George Washington's, um, chief cook, and he ran away too. I think they all eventually he ran away and he had his own business. So
Man,
much.
awesome.
Hercules and James Hemmings, just so many great chefs, so many great cooks. Anything else you want to share about Black food that you think people need to know?
I love Black food. I love Black
Me
people.
too.
I love all the things that the Blacks do. That's good.
I was thinking about the subway takes, and this woman said, "We need to bring back segregation,"
I
and
knew
he
you were
was
about to say that. But I'm like, only if segregation had actually worked and been
Yeah,
separate but equal, I'd be on board, but it was not.
it was you gotta
So
give resources to everyone. You can't take our taxes and then use them just for the white folks. You gotta we gotta have separate but equal. It was never equal.
it was never
Um,
equal.
but if we did bring segregation back and we were figuring out where to eat, I'd know exactly which side I would be on.
I'm always gonna what is it? I'm rooting for everybody black. Like
I
always.
do not root for everybody black. I root for everybody who
Yeah.
is not anti-black. We gotta we gotta update that a little bit because we got some folks. I'm not rooting for everybody black because then I gotta root for Candace Owens because she is black, but she's not who I'm rooting
You're right.
for.
I listen. I support it.
Yeah. Well, a final thing, is there anything that you are listening to or reading or anything that you want to recommend for other folks to check out?
Okay, I'm listening to. I'll give both. I'm
Oh
listening
yeah, all of
to
the above.
all of the above because I'm a talk. I'm a yapper, as the kids say. All right. So
Yes.
listening, I'm in a transitional period career wise, and my faith has been tested, but like in the best way.
Okay.
And the song that it's an old song, not old, but old to me. But it's a song by Jonathan McReynolds called "Excited." And
Ooh, I
you
love
know that
him.
song? I
I don't
am
know that song.
excited and hopeful. And
Oh, I do know that song.
yeah,
Yeah.
but that song just came on repeat this week, and it was just like
Mm.
and to say I'm in this transitional space, that song was like the perfect song. And then the other
Mm.
song that has been on repeat is again, not this one. I'm always confused. Is it a love song or is it a breakup song? But it's Alex
Mm.
Isley's "Thank You for a Lovely Time," and I think it can be
Ooh.
both. I think
Yeah.
it's a breakup, it's a love,
Depends
but
on where you are in the
yeah, it depends
situation.
on where you are. And then what I am checking out, what I'm reading, a good friend of mine, I would say one of my big brothers, Howard alumni, uh,
Ooh.
Frazier, he has this wonderful book called Cookout.
It's
And
the
Rashad,
same lettering as the restaurant.
oh, is it? Um,
Yeah.
but Rashad is from Charlotte, and Rashad started
Oh,
this
that's why he did that.
really cool camping company, Camp Yoshi, and he lives out in where's Nike located?
It's
In
in a Portland
Portland.
or
So he
next to
does
Portland.
yeah. So he does all these cool camping excursions. Anyway, the things that Rashad has done, like a lot of these foods are foods that you can take and have like an elevated camping food experience,
Ooh.
but you can also do them at home. So this one that I was like really into, I love fried rice. So there's bomb fried rice, and then he has a peach vinaigrette.
I love
Um,
fried rice.
girl, love it.
I could eat
Um,
rice every day.
but he has, all these really cool things, but he's giving you an at-home version as well as like a campsite version of how you would bring this to the campsite and have these really, really lovely meals. So I am very into Rashad's book, Cookout.
Okay.
It's a
I'll put a link
beautiful
in the comments.
coloring is beautiful. Um, just his beautiful family,
Oh.
uh, beautiful wife and children. But when you see this great guy who has, I think like many of us tried to figure out what his thing was, and when he figured it,
Mhm.
skyrocketed. So, I definitely recommend this book. Truly, like I don't recommend things
Was
lightly at
yep.
all. And even friends things I don't recommend lightly at all. But
Yeah,
I'm
I'm with you.
very much into Rashad's book, Cookout.
When you think of camping and you think of the great outdoors, I think most people associate that with people who have a little less melanin. So I love that in this picture you can see very brown hands making this pumpkin pasta over a campsite. I love that. I think that's amazing.
I think that's also like an interesting tie to both of us, right? Like he's doing
Yeah.
camping, and I think that's something that you wouldn't necessarily normally identify a black person with. Is like, oh, this
Yeah.
is leading these camping trips. And for me with gardening, it's the same thing. Like
Yes.
uh, I know for a fact 5 years ago, the first when you Googled a gardener, you wouldn't see a black gardener. Or if you did see a black gardener, it would be somebody who's kind of either it would be the clip of Jody's mom, or it would be somebody
Mhm.
very PC earthy. The people know I'm outside with a manicure half the time. I wear my jewelry and things like that. And
Yeah.
that's not for show, but that's
It's
just who I
accessible. It shows that, like, someone like you is also can be a gardener.
exactly. And so I think that part is just really important. So I think
Yeah.
again, that wasn't the point of why I said I was checking out Rashad's book, but I
Yeah.
definitely think that it's important um, that we see ourselves in different spaces that we
Mm.
would normally see ourselves in, or in the past. Because I mean, the future. I mean, we're the people of the global majority, so
Amen.
but I think it's just really important. But yeah, this is what I'm checking out.
I love that. I'm excited. I'm excited to tell everyone that I knew you way back when. I love seeing you on the Today Show and all the different places, but I am really, really excited for your own talk show.
I'll be back on the Today shows.
Oh, nice. Do you like this month?
Yeah, I'll be back Memorial Day.
Oh my God. You did such a great job. You make it look like I feel like sometimes when people do stuff like that, you can tell like they're nervous, but you just look like you're at home on set, and maybe it's because you've done it a few times, or it's just because of who you are. It's
No, I
it's
think
oh,
I
you've
just
always been that way.
I don't think I've always been that
At
way, but
least since 2006 when you got the Oprah Award.
I I mean, I think that I feel comfortable. I'm not acting. I'm sharing my passion, and
Yeah.
so that's really what it comes down to. Is that like when I say I want people to feel like gardening is accessible, I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. Now, I think it's important. I think when we first started working together,
Mm.
people always ask. I don't know if you specifically ask, "Oh, what's easy?" And I'm like, I don't do what's easy. What do you eat? That's always
Yes,
my question. Like,
yes.
what do you
You
eat?
did
What do
ask me
you enjoy?
that.
And because I want people to grow what they love. And I also want you to mix some stuff up and throw in a
Yep.
couple other things that maybe you wouldn't have tried, but like I want you to grow what you love. And I think with
That's why
that,
I stopped growing kale because it was easy for me to grow, but I didn't eat it. I was like,
so I don't grow cilantro. Like I enjoy
oh yeah,
cilantro.
because you don't like cilantro and mint, so you have a
No, no, no. I
specific
do like cilantro. My story for cilantro is that I don't like cilantro enough to grow it because
fair.
when you grow your food, it's expensive. People forget that, you have to pay for the soil, you're paying for the water, you're paying for all these things. And I don't eat cilantro enough to be like,
Yeah.
so I grow things that are kitchen essentials for me. Like I grow a good tomato, I grow a good watermelon, I grow wonderful strawberries. But like a lot of the things I'm growing are like things that I'm gonna eat regularly and things that I can save, whether it's the hot peppers, bell peppers, and whatnot.
I'm excited to see what's next with Plots and Pans. What services do you offer now that people could
Oh
patronize?
my gosh. Okay, so services I offer now. I still do virtual consultations. I still do builds. I build gardens for you. Uh,
1000% recommend her
And
builds.
then the one I enjoy the most, honestly, is the workshops. So I've traveled to New York to do workshops. I'm traveling to Florida to do a workshop. I've done many in DC. But I do these workshops and depends on who you want to do it for. So if people
Oh,
want to reach me and they're interested in a workshop, a build, or a
yeah.
consultation, they can go to my website, which is myplotsandpans.com. So my plots and pans.
myplotsandpans.com for
Yep.
now until we buy another URL.
Until I get that other URL. And then also, I'm very active on social media on Instagram
Yes.
and Facebook.
Well, thank you. And thank you all for listening to Undertold by CM. We will see you next month.